Good Wednesday morning. The text today I just got saying, in some ways I'm extolling the beauty of the church in herself, okay? Or maybe despite herself, whatever, okay? But today there's a great line you gotta answer. Those of us in the leadership of the church have to answer. And Paul in the letter to the Romans comes at it. It says, as you judge, you're gonna be judged. If you're guilty of the very things you're preaching against, but you yourself don't want to face up to it, you're going to face the wrath of God. I think he must have been looking at scandal on the part of the leadership of the Church of Rome. I don't know. But boy, oh boy, there's the Gospel of Luke. And Luke is talking to Gentile Christians. So you got to figure what this text is dealing with. Okay, it may have been very well the same audience, similar kind of audience. Luke was a disciple of St. Paul. Could be. I don't know. But what he says, the Lord said, woe to you who build the memorials of the prophets whom your fathers killed. Consequently, you bear witness and give consent to the deeds of your ancestors, for they killed them, and you do the building. Therefore, the wisdom of God said, I will send to them prophets and apostles. Some of them they will kill and persecute, in order that the generation might be charged with the blood of the prophets, shed since the foundation of the world, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who died between the altar and the temple building. This is the powerful line now. This is the point. Yes, I tell you, this generation will be charged with their blood. Woe to you, scholars of the law. This one here is really now, to me, very personal. This is the clergy. Woe to you, scholars of the law. You have taken away the key of knowledge. You yourselves did not enter, and you stopped those trying to enter. Boy, that's terrible. See, the scandal of the church is worse. It isn't personal. It is ecclesial. You are blocking. You're not only preaching, you're actually preaching a false gospel now. Now you are blocking the gospel. You're blocking it. See? When Jesus saying, you take away the key of knowledge. You yourselves do not enter, and you stop those trying to enter. That may be the most powerful criticism of all, laying the burdens that are intolerably heavy, okay? And in so doing, blocking the entrance into the kingdom, preaching a false gospel, at least by example. I think when you think, I don't know, in some ways I celebrate the Jonah character of the church, but another way, at least Jonah preached the true word despite himself. And he wasn't, as it were, a scandal. What happens when the church is really a bold and ugly scandal? See? What happens then? What happens when the church is, the leadership of the church, this is directed at the clergy. It's got to be. Who the hell were the scholars of the law? The leaders, the Pharisees and the scribes. The Pharisees, the leadership of the Jewish community. That's who he's attacking. Well, come on, translate it over. The leadership of the church, the priests, the clergy, the religious, the hierarchy. What happens when we are blockers of their entrance into the Christian life, when we scandalize it out? I think of that a lot. I mean, I don't know what to say. I'm sloppy this morning. I apologize to you. So, well, these are casual, and I am casual this morning. I just don't have it. Sorry, I really am. But I'm very aware of what seems to drive people away from the church. And it is the ugliness. It is an ugliness. See, Jonah, for whatever reason, is comedic. He's not ugly. He's a loser, but he's not comedic. He is comedically, he's a funny clown. But he's not a scandal. He's just a clown. He's a jerk. Jerks don't drive people away from the church. But something does. And maybe it's the ugliness. Maybe I'm going to put it the ugliness of arrogance, the aloofness, the vanity of the church, the vanity of her leaders. I don't know, the clergy for the sake of the clergy. I think of that a lot. When I was growing up, the priest sat on a pedestal. I told this in my mass the other day, a couple of weeks ago. I think in New England especially, the priesthood was a privileged way of life. It very, very much was. I don't know if it still is, but it could get you a free dinner. My father's restaurant, the Tivoli, where he was a waiter, was the swankiest restaurant in New England by AAA standards. That's a fact. That's not me making a stand. It's a fact. Swanky, swanky restaurant. And my father told me back in the mid-'60s, 50 years ago almost, he said he averaged 125 priests a week ate in that restaurant, and none of them ever picked up the tab. Somebody always picked up the tab for him. Okay? It was a privileged vocation. And see, the problem with that is the priesthood is not a privileged vocation in which by wearing the collar you're privileged to receive. The collar is just the symbol of your servitude, that you are a servant. One time, I was mid-'60s, I have to remember when the heck it was, because my dad retired in '67. So I had to be, and I wasn't ordained yet. So I was passing through, I don't know why, I was going from New York to Hartford. I think that's what it was. I visited my home in New Haven. And my mom said to me, why don't you go to supper for Dad? Go to the Tivoli. Dad will give you supper, and then you can keep on going. So I went. It's a swanky-ass restaurant, okay? And I said, they used to have these small little tables in what they called it the lounge, okay? And so my father came and he waited on me, okay? And I said to him, hey, Pop, why don't you sit down? He said, I can't. I'm a waiter. I stand at the table. See, when you think of the clergy, you have to think of them as servants, waiters who wait on the table. They don't sit at the table. They wait on it. Once you lose that, then you become privileged. If there is a privilege to being a clergy, it's the privilege of service, not the privilege of expectation. I mean that. One of the best lessons I learned out here in the Midwest, I got to tell you, the contrast here is significant. I don't want to get into ethnic differences because often it is cultural expectations. But out here, you got to make your bones out here in the Midwest. There ain't no privilege. There is none. You have to make it. You have to prove yourself in a way you didn't have to do so in the corridor, the Northeast corridor. You wear the collar, you got a free dinner. When I first got here to St. Tim's 50 years ago, okay, it was Father Cronin was the pastor, and he said he was going to take me out to dinner. That was the first night I was here, okay? Okay, so what do I expect? I expect the Tivoli, the equivalent of the Tivoli restaurant. We went to Phil's barbecue with the newspaper on the table. Well, it wasn't that I was scandalized or shocked or disappointed. It was different. And I kind of got a kick out of it. Well, the next night he said, I'll take me out again, okay? So now I figured it's got to be the equivalent to the Tivoli, okay? We went to Kramer's. That's a family restaurant. The kids were flying off the wall. And then I knew there was something different. It was different. And nobody picked up Father Cronin's tab. He paid. I knew he was right. I knew he was right. We're no better than anybody else. You sit at the table, you pay. In fact, you pick up the tab. Maybe you pick it up for the other guy. He didn't pick up your tab, you pick up his tab. I meant it. I knew this was right. Remember his dad, now God rest him, Luke Camario, said to me, I was here about 2 years, about mid-'70s someplace, okay? And he said to me, you're learning. You're learning. The Italians say you're making your bones. You're learning. You're proving yourself. You're making. How? I guess by serving. By serving. I remember in a fall festival, we went all day long. Oh, the old days. God, it was huge. I remember going out there and cleaning up with the men, working it from morning till night. I remember 10 o'clock at night, I was still sweeping the grounds with the other guys. If they could sweep the grounds, I could sweep the grounds. Yeah. I'm no better than they were. We're all together. I think that's the difference in the gospel. I learned that here. The priesthood is for service. It's service. That's all. We are waiters. We stand at the table. We pick up the tab. Nobody picks up the tab for us. We pick up the tab. We do. And we're privileged to pick up the tab. We're privileged to be the servant, not the master. We don't sit at the table. We wait on the table.